In Warpzone 7, we deconstructed the entire early game red and green science base and rebuilt a fully automated base up to military science. We also built the blue science assemblers, but we've still got a long way to go before actually being able to make blue science, as will become obvious once we paste the blue science phase of a blueprint on top of the first phase. In order to make blue science, we still need to make red chips and sulfur, which requires us to build the entire oil industry and the pipe spaghetti needed to transfer all the fluids. But once all of this has been built, we will have a fully automated blue science base. With apparently plenty of space left over still for yellow and purple science. And perhaps even the thousands of space science required to warp home, which we'll need to acquire by launching multiple rockets from a rocket silo. But you only have one warp zone left to get all of that done, mate, and this warp zone is drawing to a close already. So indeed. Also, Playing Mike has realized that there's still a lot of outside infrastructure to deconstruct, but just as we're about to reclaim it, a biter attack comes in. Which then cascades into an infinite trickle of triggered biters from the nest. This is why you shouldn't build your turrets too close to the nests. A large biter group passing by indicates that the warp platform's pollution cloud has totally engulfed this mining platform a while ago already. Anyway, let's take it in and head out to the other side to reclaim our pump jacks. There's not many biter bodies laying around here. We've been trying to squeeze as much oil out of this oil field as possible this warp zone, and we ain't stopping now, deconstructing the pipes and pump jacks in order, to allow all remaining oil from the pipes to keep flowing into our storage tanks. Biter pressure on the oil platform has been surprisingly low and... never mind, I guess. Once the warp platform's pollution cloud starts polluting biters beyond our miners, attacks on our outposts can ramp up massively in an instant. It is time to get out of here. With both mining platforms safely inside, we spent the last minute in this warp zone reconfiguring the gun turrets to completely surround our mining platforms. Of course there's a blueprint for that, but I don't need that as I very clearly place every gun turret in the right place immediately. Or well, never mind then, why do I even bother making those blueprints if I end up not using them? Anyway, there is no time to do the other mining platform before the warp out. This is a speedrun after all, so I need to spend loads of time trying to get the perfect shot on the moment of warping out. And yet again, we get a new message. You're like a giant to the creatures of this planet and to its natural resources. Well, I don't know if that means I should be happy or sad, but welcome to Warp Zone 8, the final warp zone of this playthrough. The auto-warp timer shows there are 60 minutes left to do all that we need to do to return home. Already less than that with all the showboating Playing Mike seems to insist on doing all the time. Come on guy, get a move on. He's not getting a move on, is he? Alright, we are getting a move on, and the first thing I want to do is get my two mining platforms back in operating business. We pop our head outside and we see... nothing. No biters, no resources, it's just us here. Or is it? We are supposed to feel like some sort of a giant here, and pretty soon we see why. The resource patches are terribly tiny and pitifully poor. Why the heck then did I even choose this effing planet to be my final warp zone? Anyway, let's take out that tiny single biter base. Wait a minute, tiny single biter base? So is it not only the resources that are tiny and poor, but also the biter bases on this planet? Let's take a quick tour around our landing zone. And won't you know it, another tiny biter base. But this one comes with big biters. Given the biter evolution factor is 0 again, those must have warped along to this planet on top of a warp platform and just joined this nearby nest upon arrival. Anyway, they are no match for our OP gun turrets. For the nest, we don't need gun turrets. We don't even need a gun. Although it does go down a bit faster with one. Did you know you could also brutally beat Biter's brain in barehanded?
57 minutes remaining.
Anyway, let's continue our exploration. We find absolutely nothing. No resources at all, and only the exceptionally infrequent tiny biter base. And indeed, this is the main concept of the dwarf planet, and why we feel like a giant around here. This world is only sparsely populated by smaller than usual biter bases. But the trade-off is that all of our resources also spawn incredibly infrequent, and the resources that do spawn will be much smaller and much poorer than usual. Somehow though, of course we log out and find a small iron patch before 5 minutes have passed, despite my time-wasting show-off shenanigans. Well, I guess to compensate for that luck, I decide to spend another 3 minutes here to fully reconstruct the mine according to my new blueprint, even though that definitely could have been postponed until after we also found some copper. Oh well.
52 minutes remaining.
So, let's do go out and find some copper. Right? Right? Wrong. That's wrong. Right. You saw the file name. Despite being in desperate need of copper, so we can actually make the blue science packs we need, we are not going to be looking for a copper patch anytime soon. No. I think I'm minutes ahead of schedule. Which I'm not really, or at least not anymore after showboating and trying to film scenic scenes all the time. So even though I have spent weeks painstakingly developing and fine-tuning a nice, reliable strategy, now I'm deviating from it. Even worse, I specifically made myself a note not to waste time doing this strategy deviation, as the drawbacks far outweigh the benefits, as there aren't any benefits. I'm talking about wasting time to explore circles around our landing zone and taking out all of the nearby biter bases. Now, if you defend the above ground warp platform, then it would have some benefit, as the biters will flock to the warp platform slightly later and their numbers will be slightly behind on the normal biter attack progression. But as we aren't defending the warp platform in this playthrough, those benefits simply don't even exist. And all we are achieving is wasting precious time and allowing the pollution cloud to grow even faster towards our future mining platforms as we are taking out the nearby pollution absorbing nests. And to top it all off, the process of taking out those biter bases pushes up the evolution factor even faster. Yeah, mate, great job showing us that now there are no biter bases absorbing pollution which prevents all attacks, but there is nothing for them to attack. And even if there was, it'll take mere minutes before the pollution cloud expands on new biter bases in all directions around the warp platform. Resistance is futile. Hopefully this quick peek inside and seeing the massive amount of base building work that still remains to be done before we can even start researching will make me see the light and that I need to get a move on pronto to go scout for copper. At least engine production is running, and after quickly smelting some steel to keep that up, we pop outside again. This time surely out on the quest for copper. And like I predicted, despite my efforts, the pollution cloud simply expands too fast to keep up with exploring and killing biter bases anyway. It is futile. The best way to find a large and rich enough copper patch is to just drive out from spawn in a straight line and go search in the Goldilocks zone. Far enough out where resource patches are large and rich enough to efficiently mine and to stay out of the pollution cloud for a while, but not as far out as to the point where biter bases will become too dense to efficiently traverse between. Because despite this warp zone's dwarf planet status, once you are far enough out, you will quickly find out that everything is relative. Unfortunately, as you may see, we are not searching far away from spawn, but instead have resumed our useless biter killing mission. But yet again, my bottomless pit of luck strikes again as we spot a biter base on the edge of the visible map, and as we drive out to take it down, there is our copper patch. Finally! We are definitely behind on schedule now, but with this lucky find, we can perhaps still save this warp zone and make it to the... Hey, where are you going? Hello? Mate, copper is right there. Mate? Mate? Oh my gosh, I think he didn't see it. Or perhaps he has just lost his mind and forgot what the F he was supposed to be doing and zoned out completely. And the evidence is stacking up for the latter case as he continues to take out more biter bases.
Minutes remaining.
And eventually decides to plop down the copper miner on an iron patch out of pure desperation. And he starts rebuilding this whole mine as well. Mate, you cannot be serious anymore. Have you just given up already or what? I couldn't think of a worst possible time to rebuild a perfectly functional mine into the exact same perfectly functional mine, but then perfectly symmetrically spaced out with a single tile of room between the miners to escape out and... Oh, I see. It's his OCD. Must make perfect, cannot progress without the pain.
38 minutes remaining.
And of course, we have plenty of Zen time for some calm and relaxing inventory management. Oh, come on, get out there already.
Thirty-seven minutes remaining.
Hey, a nice loot chest with 7 wooden chests. Who wouldn't stop for that? Of course, we could spot copper over here as well, as we seem to discover this sporadic resource patch of other types around here. But still, I really should stop taking out all those biter bases. And my car agrees, as it blatantly runs out of ammo mid-fight. Well, that works, I guess. He checks the pollution again. And of course, there's still a nest in the pollution cloud. Where could it be? Ah, a clue. We are deep into dangerous medium biters now, so let's assault the nest with one single broken gun turret. Anyway, that finally seems to spring Playing Mike out of his obsession, as suddenly he seems to realize he has already wasted almost half of this planet's warp time on the useless strategy of taking out nearby biter bases. And very soon, I will find out why I specifically made myself that note to not waste time hunting nearby biters.
34 minutes remaining.
Anyway, we finally drive out and away from spawn, trying to explore as much ground as possible in as little time as possible, maximizing the chance we spot the copper patch we need. I even start ignoring all the loot chests. Well, most of them. And here's where we find out why I specifically made myself that note to not waste time hunting nearby biters. It is hard to find the specific resource you're looking for on a dwarf planet. You can get lucky, like we did with the iron, but it's much easier to get unlucky, and it can take a very long time of exploring to find the goodies you need. And thus, by the time I decided I really should go out and find myself some copper soon, I simply cannot find any. Literally. Well, except that southern copper patch which I somehow missed in my zoned out biter hunting state, I guess, but we don't talk about that anymore. Anyway, I'm gonna be driving around for another full 15 minutes or so, finding at least 4 uranium patches in the process, but no copper. And even though this is a dwarf planet, if we go far enough away from spawn, the biter bases still become quite numerous and dangerous. And we are far enough out where the ultra dangerous, insta-killing behemoth worms live. Those guys could one-shot us in a single shot, believe it or not. Out of sheer desperation, we try dodging a bunch of behemoth worm projectiles to try our luck on the other side of the gap. despite finding several stone patches, a nice iron patch and yet another uranium patch, we have no luck finding the copper patch we need on this side either. And it's not for the lack of trying. That is a ridiculous amount of explored land. And this, boys and girls, this is where the desperate save game name was born. Honestly, I think by this point the run is dead. There is no recovering from here. It is over. Or is it? Find out? This time. Well, that's a convenient point to save scum splice your way into finding copper almost immediately after this save point. To that I say, are you insane? The obvious save scum splice lies way behind this man at the beginning of this warp zone. I must say I did want to reload to the beginning of this warp zone and forget this whole ineffective adventure so far. But I am 35 minutes into this warp zone now. I may as well just fail hard to confirm to myself that this indeed was not the way to go. Anyway, that unfortunately means we don't find a fortunately placed copper almost immediately after this save point. On the contrary, let's see how long it will take him.
Minutes remaining.
20 minutes? I've been exploring for copper for 15 full minutes now, and all I got was this lousy coal patch. And this is like the 6th freaking uranium patch. Ah! But then, finally, we find another loot chest. Nice. Oh, and there's also this small insignificant copper patch located behind the loot chest. Unfortunately, I already placed the copper miner on an iron patch, so we'll have to go pick it up through our warp teleporter. I have a brain freeze and run around to enter the teleporter from the wrong side. Phew, that wasn't so bad. We reclaim the iron mining copper miner and prepare to make the traverse once more. Clean. And after 42 minutes on this planet with
18 minutes remaining.
on the clock, we have finally started to mine the copper we need to complete our plans. But how can we possibly do all that we still need to do in only 18 minutes? That is a great question, without a great answer. I'm just gonna stick to my strategy, pretend I'm not a full half hour behind on schedule, and just try faster. We're just gonna handcraft everything we need on the fly this time, starting with these 8 oil refineries. In fact, I'm trying faster so hard that when I start to build the oil refineries, the first one hasn't even finished handcrafting just yet. So let's start with the plastic plants for red chips then, together with the sulfur infrastructure. But for now, we're gonna skip the dedicated sulfuric acid combination. As initially, we just need raw sulfur for blue signs. Unfortunately, the water is routed through the future advanced oil processing infrastructure, so we have to prematurely build up the entire water line there just to get water over to sulfur, even though we don't need water for basic oil processing. And even unfortunatelier, it is simply impossible for building oil infrastructure by hand to be fast, as the giant web of precise pipeworks required seems to be the main reason people put off building oil processing until they've procrastinated all that there is to procrastinate. These are our petroleum gas buffer tanks, which is the only output from basic oil processing. And as I usually place the petroleum pipeline the furthest out, we only need to put down the southernmost pipeline for now. Or so I thought. You might notice the problem already, but I didn't. I figured it out soon enough though, and fortunately we have plenty of spare time in this warp zone to make small mistakes like these, right? Somewhere on a mining platform far, far away, a gun turret has gotten destroyed. But so be it. I simply don't have the time to go and fix it, so we simply pray to sweet RNGesus that the rest of the gun turrets will hold and that the biters won't target my mining platform too often. After all the pipeworks are connected, except of course that one crucial pipe there that I missed, we rush upwards to connect the refineries to the oil tanks on the harvester floor. And that should hook up the oil refineries with oil. Nice. But what is not nice is that yet another gun turret gets destroyed. So I quickly rush out to the wrong mining platform to fix it. Obviously it's the iron miner which is in danger, as it is located very close to the warp platform and thus has been long covered in the severe warp platform pollution cloud. Meaning that large groups of big biters are now possibly parting too close to the iron mining platform for them to pass by without noticing it. Here the northern turrets have been completely drained of ammo and the spitters are taking pot shots at our guns. We quickly remedy the situation and you can see the panic has set in with playing Mike, as he doesn't even want to take the time to zoom out a bit for the pretty picture. You'll have to help me out and use your imagination a bit here. I did a bunch of nice filming early in the warp zone, thinking I had enough time to show you everything at a clear and calm pace, dear viewer, but alas, that's all out of the window now. It's also crucial that we keep on smelting iron, but F it, we are not gonna make a second coal chip to get all of them to work. On to building the red chip setup. We only need to build them 6 assemblers deep initially, so let's skip the last 2 for now. The panic is still ongoing, as I don't even realize the oil refineries aren't working because of that one crucial pipe I didn't place. I'm sure that won't lead to any problems later. For now though, we'll try to get plastics connected to petroleum gas and coal first, as those are probably the slowest transport lines of the bunch. The future belt weaving here is even going to be accompanied by underground pipe weaving, making the whole thing even more cursed, but oh well. For now, that is coal connected to plastics. Except for the little bit of belt and inserter infrastructure at the actual plastics. So let's put that in place too. Also, we could just zip along to the right with full-length yellow undergrounds, There is no reason to put that extra yellow belt piece in between other than that it looks nice, but F it. Even in these dire crisis times, I cannot ignore my OCD. Another 15 seconds wasted, but eventually plastic meets up with green chips here, and we can draw up the belt to feed red chips. And indeed, also this setup looks suspiciously similar to the labs and the blue signs setup. Copper wire is already waiting on the belt, ready to be drawn down. And after we place all the inserters, we've got red chips flowing up the belts. Red chips completes the second blue signs ingredient along with the engines we set up last warp zone already. And all that's left to set up is sulfur, which requires water. So we complete our run around the block back to where we started at red chips to connect the water line to the harvester floor as well. To allow the water to flow from the water tanks in the basement up to the factory floor, we simply get rid of the pump to allow the water to move freely both ways. Gravity is not an issue. And that should be sulfur. Except it isn't, as I have forgotten to place one crucial pipe piece there as well. I'm still unaware that 75% of my refineries are still not working due to that missing pipe. And the fact that the last two are working lulled me into a false sense of thinking everything is working as it should. But those two refineries are producing nowhere near enough petroleum gas to feed all the plastic and sulfur we need. Anyway, meanwhile sulfur is working, and all we need to do is belt it out to the blue signs assemblers as well, where it will meet up with the engines. And with all three signs ingredients connected, the first blue signs packs should start producing anytime now. Let's drop all of our loot chest red chips on the belt as well to speed things up a notch. And with
10 minutes and 27 seconds remaining,
the first blue signs packs will be rolling down the belt. Well, we may still lose the war, but with the small battle of blue signs won, I finally regain my calmness somewhat. And as a result, I managed to spot that tiny missing pipeline with my sharp eagle eye. Or, well, more likely I spotted that 6 giant oil refineries weren't working and started looking for the cause of that afterwards. Anyway, despite the first blue signs being produced, we still have much to do before we can win the next small skirmish in this WARPTORIO war. And that skirmish will require advanced oil processing. So here we are, building up the rest of the refinery blueprint for advanced oil. But before we continue with oil cracking, we first take a moment to check if everything works as it should. Red chips, check. Green chips, check. We also properly need to refuel our furnaces still, so let's go get that done as well. Smelt some more steel. And feed out the produced steel in the supply chest for engines and red ammo. The copper chest is still supplied, but iron is out because of the furnaces not working properly for a while, so let's hand supply some iron in there as well. The first blue science packs have hit the labs, so it is finally time to reveal the grand plan. The blue technology we are aiming for is... not Warp Reactor Project 5. Yes, it adds another 10 minutes to the timer, but the tech we are really after is this one, the next level, which spawns the physical warp reactor and in doing so, disables the auto warp timer completely. Now, that may sound great at first glance, but if you think about it for a moment, there's a few teeny tiny issues associated with trying to stay on a planet indefinitely in WARPTORIO, which we'll get to soon. As it turns out, Warp Reactor Project 6 is not a blue technology at all, but it is locked behind a handful of blue techs, the advanced oil processing tree all the way down to robot frames and the expensive uranium processing tech. I'm pretty sure 8 minutes is not enough time to get all of those researched, but fortunately the prerequisite Warp Reactor Project 5 will add 10 more minutes to the warp timer for the very last time. That may just turn out to be our saving grace. Warp Reactor Project 5 is a very fast 5 seconds per science spec technology again. In fact, it is so fast, the labs eat through the entire stock of blue science almost immediately, grinding research progress to a halt. Fortunately, the next batch of blue science just rolls in, and before we know it, we have 10 bonus minutes to try and complete the full tech list we selected. Advanced oil processing is next on the list, so let's go and complete the oil cracking setup. We have light oil to petroleum gas on the north side and heavy to light oil on the south side, with the required water pipeline running through the middle, connected to both cracking facilities. Well, that's not entirely true, as we need more light oil cracking than heavy oil cracking, so the light oil cracking facility loops around to the south side as well. And we need some carefully planned out pipeworks to prevent the two systems from connecting to each other. Unlike belts, pipes do block your movement. So let's hope we don't need to do much maintenance in this area. We switch to advanced oil processing ASAP, as not only does it produce 55 petroleum gas out of 100 oil instead of only 45, it also gives you light and heavy oil for free on top of that, which you can crack into even more petroleum gas. Overall, advanced oil processing gives you roughly twice as much product compared to basic oil processing. So, in situations where oil is sparse, meaning in nearly every Factorio game out there, switching to advanced oil as early as you can is a no-brainer. Anyway, we use some wire conditions on the oil tanks to only crack our surplus heavy and light oil, giving dips to the future rocket fuel and the upcoming lubricant, which in this base will be stockpiled and supplied with barrels. We have even planned for a special barrel assembler in our base, which will later also barrel sulfuric acid to facilitate uranium mining trips, but for now we use it to make 120 barrels for lubricant. And as the lubricant tech completes, we just need to select the lubricant recipe on the chemical plant, and that's that. We go check if blue science is still supplied well, as in my test runs, engines were always a major bottleneck near the end. But since we spent over half an hour looking for copper earlier, during which engine production was running uninterrupted, we are fully stocked on engines, and all 12 blue science assemblers are running non-stop. Electric engine is the next tech being researched, but we're not gonna set those up yet, opting to continue working on our blueprinted base. In fact, we don't really need to set up any of the things unlocked by blue science to research the tech that disables the auto-warp timer, as its prerequisites are purely technological in nature rather than needing physical objects. With the economical advanced oil processing unlocked, we can allow the rest of the recipes to start consuming oil as well, and we carefully regulate sulfuric acid production by limiting its access to iron plates to 5 stacks, enough for one storage tank full of sulfuric acid. The sulfuric acid pipeline routing is another cursed nightmare all in itself, but eventually it reaches both battery assemblers, a temporary future blue chip assembler, and somehow it makes its way out on the way to get barreled later. And after connecting the water pipeline, we are producing sulfuric acid. Meanwhile, the base is entirely out of copper, so we finally take a moment to go down and reorganize the copper and iron supply chests to their proper site, as well as connecting the copper belt from the furnaces to the factory floor. But before we can finish, the ongoing attacks on our mining platforms are becoming something to worry about. And just as we decide to pick up some ammo to go do something about it, the first turret breaks. Heading out to the iron miner, the turrets are empty there yet again. And it is no wonder the mining platform is under heavy attacks, as it is located firmly under the thick smog cloud of the warp platform. Ideally, we'd move it out of the pollution cloud, for example to this northern iron patch. But until the warp timer is disabled, it'll simply have to wait and hopefully survive with another ammo infusion. Wait a minute. Better yet, we have enough ammo owners to easily insert 25 ammo per turret, by inserting half a stack in each turret, which is 100 magazines each, and then taking out half of the ammo twice to get it down to 25 magazines per turret. With the entire platform equalized to 25 magazines per turret, it also becomes easy to visualize from which side enemy attacks are coming in before the turrets get emptied out and destroyed, by simply looking at the remaining ammo count in each turret. With 59 minutes spent on this planet already, Byte Revolution is equaling its all-time high now, and at near 70% evolution, small biters have now become a distant memory, and the dangerous medium biters are now a minority group, overshadowed by large numbers of the even more dangerous big biters. After repeating the same half-quarter stacking ammo dance on the copper platform, we zip back inside. And for the first time this playthrough, we are passing 1 full hour spent on a warp zone.
9 minutes remaining.
With the slow uranium tech in progress, we cannot do much else to speed up the situation, so let's calm down a bit and take the time to refill all the furnaces. And we probably should refill the factory floor's coal chests as well. And indeed, the coal chests are empty and plastic production has grinded to a halt. So, instead of relying on the slow yellow belt, we first hand-fill plastics and grenades, before dumping the rest in the 4 coal chests. Water consumption is also ongoing at an alarming rate, and while our storage tanks are not empty yet, we are using up like 40k water a minute now. We take a quick zap outside, especially for you, the viewer. Just in time to catch this unexpected attack on the copper mine. Honestly, I have no idea what I came out to do here, so back inside we go. And finally finish up the reorganization of the iron and copper buffer chests. We also repair a few odds and ends, organize the inventory, and zap up to see the completion of the final blue technology, as Warp Reactor Project 6 requires only red and military science, but a whopping 500 science packs of each type. Fortunately, we have almost 500 military science stocked up already, so including the amount on the belts and in the labs, we should be good already. It is time to zoom out and enjoy the culmination of our entire strategy through all of the 8 warp zones. All of that work has been leading up to this very moment. Well, except the first 20 minutes of noodling around on this warp zone. And once we start on the very last technology, the one that will forever disable the auto warp timer, I think that despite my stupidity, I will make it. Nice. But wait, is it actually that nice? Okay, so we may be disabling the auto warp timer, but what good is that gonna do for me? That just means we'll be stuck on this planet until the end of the game. Post purple signs, post yellow signs, post rocket launch, heck, post multiple rocket launches and thousands of space signs even, before we have a shot of warping home. And all the while, pollution output and byte revolution won't ever reset anymore. It's already higher than it's ever been, and within minutes we'll be knocking on the door of the bulletproof behemoth biter. We are not ready to deal with those guys, and while sure, they won't attack my warp platform directly, they will attack my miners, and the warp platform's pollution cloud will continue to grow steadily for hours and hours and hours, swallowing our miners no matter how far out we build them. Our troubles are far from over. In fact, now that we've locked ourselves for the rest of the game on this highly byte-revolving, ultra-polluted planet, I'd say our previous problems are gonna pale in comparison to what is about to follow. Next time.